strike today. Oh my God. I'm glad we all could make on time. And good afternoon, everyone. How are you? And I'm Akansha Dimri. As I've already been told over here, I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Tech Funding News. Very thankful to Tech.eu for calling me over here. We cover startups, scale-ups, and innovations. And we have some interesting perspectives in the room today for the topic, to exit or not. So yeah, it would be great if everyone could start with some intro and also what you're working on right now. So, Julian.
So hi, I'm JD. I'm managing partner of IRIS. IRIS is a pan-European venture and growth tech fund dedicated to vertical platforms, very tech that scale. So we're investors in several highly visible companies, AI in insurance like Shift Technology, Exotech, robotic in the logistics space, a lot of AI such as adaptive. And lately, well, we're working on investing in the next technologies, specifically in an AI situation where you have a lot of questions that I'm sure we're going to talk about today. We really focus on finding the next tech assets that actually prepare for the world post-AI.
Yeah, a lot of AI and deep tech flowing over here. Yes, Rose, you're doing some amazing work.
Yes, hi, I'm Rose Holtz. I'm founder and CEO of a company called Screen Hits TV. We are a media digital company. We are doing in-car entertainment, working with some of the largest brands from Porsche to Renault and Ford. And I've been doing the business for 14 years, so I'm looking forward to talking about exiting, or not.
Thank you so much, Rose, for joining us. Kate, oh my God, Seed Camp.
Yeah, no, good to be here. Yeah, I'm an investor at Seed Camp. I joined the fund back in 2020. Actually did a brief stint at one of our portfolio companies and then came back to Seed Camp. Seed Camp itself, we're a almost 20-year-old seed fund, one of the first seed funds to have started up in Europe, hyper-focused on backing global companies coming out of Europe.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience over here, it's time to wake up. Some quick hands over here. Who's a founder over here? Lovely. And the investors? Okay, and the operators? Okay, perfect. So yeah, this conversation is all about European startups and also VC exits. And I have some great data over here about 21 and 2023 that European VC exit value dropped 60% between 21 and 23. And yet, the founders who actually timed their exit during this time got some life-changing outcomes. So why did, what should everyone do it, and why others didn't get it? And only 1 in 10 startups that reach Series B ever achieve a meaningful exit. So I would like to start with Rose over here. You pivoted from Screen Hits completely in 2019, right? And you were going head-to-head with Netflix and Amazon. So, and who had like billions in bank. So why didn't you exit at that time? And was there ever a moment since that you wish you had?
So 2019, that was right before COVID. Yeah. And the businesses that we were working with, like Turner Broadcasting and Disney, they were also pivoting their business. They were moving away from TV, traditional TV, and going into their own direct-to-streaming platforms. So we decided at that time to change with the industry. Mm-hmm. And then within 18 months, the company completely transformed from making very little money to going into million-pound contracts with automotive companies. So, people start companies because they either are looking for a quick sell or they start companies because they want to build something long-term. Mm-hmm. I want it long-term. And so when I finally kind of hit my diamonds behind the rock, there was no way I was going to sell at that point. I wanted to enjoy that ride.
Great. Completely understand that. And Kate, what is your perspective on this? Especially, what signals tell you a founder like Rose is ready to exit versus to keep building?
Yeah, I think there's probably 2 dynamics. I mean, there's definitely in our portfolio, there's founders out there who kind of push an acquisition, and the acquisition idea comes from them. Mm. The other way is when the market pushes an acquisition. So there's something about a market dynamic that changes. I think a very stereotypical example right now is Claude, right? Like last week, Claude published their new design suite. It started making a lot of design companies a little bit stressed, starting to think about, okay, does it still make sense to build this business? If so, if not, should we pivot? If we have enough built, is there a world in which we would get acquired? So those are kind of the two dynamics that we see mostly. And it really does, I mean, a lot of what the founder would then kind of tell us and kind of the signals that they would give us really depends on those two things, whether it comes from the founder or it comes from the market. I would say some of the early signals on the founder side is maybe kind of a loss of faith that kind of they can get to that escape velocity and raise the next round of funding, especially if the founder has been going at it for a while. I think it's easy to feel burnt out, easy to feel like maybe they're struggling to kind of see that path. There's less of a focus on what the next 5 years looks like. There's more of a focus on what the next 12 months looks like. And then I think also a focus, and we're seeing that a lot with our founders, a focus on what a potential strategic buyer or what a PE buyout fund would be looking for within that company. And that hugely depends, right? Sometimes it will be kind of capital efficiency. Sometimes it will just be actually quality of the team. Sometimes it will be something about the product where they could kind of invest more in so that they can get to a better acquisition offer.
That's amazing. And this also reminds me that SeedCamp has been there for like 3 biggest companies in tech, like Revolut, YouPower, and also Synthesia. So 3 completely different companies, completely different founders, completely different markets. So what did you see in them which others missed at that time?
Well, unfortunately, I was not there when we made any of those investments.
But I'm sure,
sadly,
in board meetings, there would be the examples that would be given to public.
Of course, I mean, in the SeedCamp office, those funds or those companies are probably the most discussed companies within our team. I would say, none of those 3 are acquisitions, right? Like Revolut's private company, I think, there's lots of suspicions about when they could potentially IPO. And then Synthesia, they actually last year said no to an Adobe offer, which made the news. And obviously, as investors, we were very proud to see them say, hey, we have this offer, but we're going to push to go bigger. And then obviously, UiPath, one of actually, I think the biggest enterprise IPO coming out of Europe at the time. I would say the thing with all 3 founders was like obsession, relentlessness, and like obsession to go big. Like I remember we were in the office a couple of months ago watching some of the early Revolut pitch videos that Nick had sent to SeedCamp to kind of get initial funding off the ground. And it was just such a good video. Nick was like looking at the screen and he's like, hey, what I want to do is simple. I want to kill banks. And it was just kind of such a, in like a matter of words, you can fully explain how big the ambition is that you're going after, that an acquisition kind of, building something small that maybe changes the banking landscape or kind of alters or modifies the existing market is not good enough for him. I think that is what we see in the most exceptional founders who really take it all the way and fundamentally change the market.
I know ambition has to be really big when it comes to the founder. And Julian, which brings me to you. You back Lean IX, am I pronouncing it right? Early and watched it like exit to SAP in 2023, and it was like, I've written 1 billion, but I think it was 1.2 billion valuation reportedly. So as they had been the strategic partner for SAP for like a decade before, so was like the exit inevitable at that stage, or was there a moment where founders could have actually built something bigger and more independently and more innovative?
It's interesting because I have a slightly different take on exits. The exits for us are very specific. I mean, the way for a company to exit is not like we woke up one day and we just sold. First of all, you need to have offers, you need to have attraction, and sometimes it's too early, you can make bigger, sometimes it's the right time. You never really know.
Yeah.
What's for sure is that you build momentum. With Lean IX, it was a company that had been growing in the IT space. Basically, it was a SaaS that allowed you to have information about all the apps deployed in your companies. And from day one, when we backed them, they were onboarding customers and growing their ARR. So it was a lean company, actually. The name was very funny because it's the leanest adventure I've had. I've had many adventures
Oh, wow.
of billion companies. This one was like, there is an issue, we fix it. And SAP was not like something obvious or not. It's just like we were doing this in the IT space, and before that there was Signavio that was helping you orchestrate your applications, and UiPath was coming in a space that was allowing you now to operate automatically BPM. So at some point, partnerships made it very consolidated. And SAP was the biggest partner LeanIX had, and LeanIX was...
I was German.
Yeah, and LeanIX was on its path to 100 million ARR. So this is how it works. SAP is growing. They see that they have a very solid partner that actually can provide them with much more to their customers. These conversations had been existing for 4 or 5 years. We started the partnership in 2017, and the exit occurred in 2023. So it's a mix. It's not SAP or not SAP. It's LeanIX reaching 100 million, being profitable, being a very strong company, and SAP saying, well, what am I going to do this year to show my customers I have more offers? And suddenly, prior to LeanIX having time to think about whether they should exit or not, SAP was there on the table saying, let's discuss. So exits are something you engineer progressively with your partnerships, with momentum of your company, and suddenly there's a flurry of points, the stage where you're at, the intent with which some partners or acquirers come at you, and usually what we see is synchronicity, meaning that SAP was interested, but honestly a lot of PE firms or strategics could have been. So there are points in the life of a company where you just have the choice, should I exit? Do I want to go on? And this choice is really related to the momentum of the company, the momentum of the market, and where the entrepreneurs stand at. So it usually makes sense.
I completely get it. And that's a very nice quote that you've given us, and a take which I want from Roseanne on this as well, because you were funded basically from BFF and British Future Fund and Angels, and you were repeatedly told that this is not the right decision, or and you proved them wrong. So does that make you more or less likely to listen when an investor tells you it's time to exit? I am being so quick on that because we have less time.
Yes, no, of course. I mean, so I have some shareholders that I would say 98% don't want me to exit. Some others do, and I think what happens is the investors see the momentum. And so even if we're valued at 50 million, they want more, and they want more, and they want to just hold on to that right moment. And every company, I don't care if it's Facebook, if it's Netflix, every company does plateau. And it's that growth trajectory, and it's the contracts that you have. So right now we have very long-term contracts with automotive companies, and now with the telco that I can't announce yet. These are 10-year contracts. Where I'm at is really looking at seeing where are we going to be at in the next 5 years? When do we have the majority of cars on the road? When have we integrated the top advertising companies? And at that moment, it'd be looking for a strategic partner to allow us to either excel or for them to take the company farther. I'm not exiting to have the company folded. I would exit to see someone else come in and to really catapult it. It really is like all three of those things that I think come together.
That is a great viewpoint. I mean, to catapult the company, that is something that every founder should think over here when they are exiting. And also, you have built 7 years of B2B infrastructure. Like, that was a very long time of persistence and patience over there. Most founders don't have that kind of patience. So is the problem with exit today with founders being pushed to sell before they could actually build anything, or an investors asking them to or letting them to?
It comes down to money. So I think a lot of companies don't have any money. And then when they go for like the next round, so I was not in this, I never raised VC funding. So I didn't have the pressure of an institution saying, what's going on? You're not hitting the targets, it's not gonna happen, we're dumping you. Or not being able to find Series B or Series C. I didn't have that pressure. A lot of companies that are very dependent on that investment, if they don't hit their targets, and they can't find any funding, because if their initial investors don't come in for Series B, it's harder to find more financing. So they don't have a choice. Some people would say that because I wasn't, it was a disadvantage being a woman and not being able to raise VC funding. But it actually worked in my favor. Because of that pressure being removed, I was able to operate on a bootstrap for a very long time, 7 years, 8 years, and have a loyal team that allowed me to do what I do best, which is to bring in the partners and to prove I had the product and then to undercut the market, because I didn't have all those high overheads. So I had that amazing tech, and I didn't have the high overhead, so I could go in and undercut the market, hence why when Amazon pulled out of automotive, it kind of opened up a huge space for us to be able to collect those contracts. So I think sometimes you can turn a negative into a positive. And any company that's in a situation where it's been 2 years and 3 years and they can't find the funding, if they truly believe in it, they can make it work. It's just a lot harder.
I think I completely believe in the negative to positive situation, and I think every founder should do that every day, getting up. Very quickly, Kate, because we're talking to a diverse founder over here, and so I would like to know your perspective on this. Do you think diverse founders get a fair shot at exits, or does the cap table end up by Series B and the same access gap that existed at the start?
No, yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's an issue, and I think a lot of times it's kind of what you were talking about with, you need to get early stage investors on board who then can potentially also help guide you to different offers. We spend a lot of our time, especially Reshma on our team spends a lot of her time thinking through, hey, we just met this potential corporate partner. Could this be a potential acquired later down the line? Is this just a conversation that one of our founders should entertain? So we keep a lot of this very top of mind. And so if you do get great investors on board with access to those networks and access to those relationships, I think that can help. And so if you don't have that, that could be potentially more challenging. I would say, Europe has still a growth capital issue, growth capital challenge. And so, we're kind of talking about smaller acquisitions, but as we get to the bigger acquisitions, it's also harder to reach that because potentially you do need that next stage of growth capital, or you have an LOI and the investor needs to put in a little bit more money so that you can extend the runway so that you can actually close the acquisition. Like, I think access to great early stage investors can help with that. And we know that it's a challenge for diverse and female founders to get access to that capital, and so that definitely trickles down as you accelerate and kind of get to an acquisition.
Very interesting. Kate has raised a very interesting point that Europe has access to capital, and there is a challenge when it comes to acquisitions and basically segmenting and choosing. Julian, Iris invests across France and Germany, which are like two markets where founders build long-term. But the biggest acquirers are Americans, right? SAP being an exception, of course. Is there a genuine tension between Europe founder DNA and the reality that most likely exit route towards US, a US IPO maybe?
To be honest, so we've had the luxury of having many exits over the past 3 or 4 years, and many of them come from private equity. Where I agree with you is Europe is different. There's less companies that are strategic and that they can acquire. There's less strategic capital. On the other hand, there's a lot of private equity firms trying to actually get a rebound. So what we lack in growth, we have also in people able to structure cap tables to help them grow internationally and perhaps reach the next stage. Typically with Kiriba, it's a company we sold $3.2 billion to Bridgepoint. We thought we'd IPO it when it reached 150 million ARR, and actually PE said, no, you should IPO at 350, 400. Let's do a majority round, stay in it because there's still growth in the company, and we'll do that later. So what we lack in strategic presence, which requires many companies to try the US, we do have in structural capital such as LBO, and LBO represents a good part of the exits over the past several years. AI may change that temporarily because it scares them. The truth is, great software company, growing, being profitable, or having a path to profitability remains a great asset for private equity.
Yeah, and Iris also manages a $250 million fund with a 10-year cycle. Does that clock ever create a TikTok pressure on founders to exit?
I think it relates to what you guys discussed. Our job is to invest, it's to help company grow, but also the money we get comes from people who expect a return. It's a natural flow of money and liquidity to actually accompany the companies towards an exit at some point. And so yeah, our job is also to figure out momentum, to feel when the moment is right. Our job is to provide network to those who don't have it so that they can discuss with companies or with potential PEs or acquirers. So we don't put pressure, but we make sure that regularly the companies have the opportunity to test their ambition and test the potential through refinancing, whether it works or not, or through exits, whether it works or not. Our job is to provide also path to liquidities to companies and not wait for 12 years. The story we say about Revolut, about Meta, they're amazing, but they're one in a bunch. And many companies have to go to the market to figure out if they've reached their plateau, if they could grow more. And sometimes actually an acquisition is the right path for them to pursue their destiny and have the right path to what they should accomplish.
Got it. I think we are over with time, so I would like all of you to give me an answer for one last question, and that is, what is that one thing that founders get it wrong about exit, and you would like to fix that? Rose.
So a few of my friends have exited, and the biggest regret they have is that they exited too soon.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really knowing when you do exit and being okay with that.
Kate?
I probably would, so many ideas I have in my head. I would say an LOI does not yield an acquisition closure. Like, I think there's a bunch of steps. A lot of our companies get a quick LOI. They're really excited by it. They maybe kind of take their pedal off the gas when it comes to the company. They start thinking about that LOI in too severe of a term, and it always takes longer than expected to close a deal like this. So I would say, even if you've got an offer, ensure that you have enough capital and enough energy in the business so that you can actually get it over the finish line.
Sure. Julian?
Rebounding on Kate's point, there's no romance in exit. It's just like not suddenly my prince or princess appears and we go. It's engineered, there's a momentum, founders need to be ready, the companies need to be ready and attractive. People don't buy because it's great. They buy for growth, they buy for tech assets, they buy for path to profitability. So you need to be prepared. And you'll get LOIs, you'll get several options, and even selling takes time, and you need to be prepared. So exit is something you prepare for a long time.
Yeah. Those are just some great wisdom of nuggets over here, and I cannot think of a better group to have this conversation with. Operator lens, founder lens, investor lens, and I hope everyone in the audience also got some nice perspective. Thank you, everyone, and we're signing off.